They say money talks, but what they don't tell you is that sometimes money waits. It sits quiet. It watches. It builds empires in silence while the powerful assume they're untouchable. That's what my money did for 18 years. Let's pause for a moment. Drop a comment. Tell me where you're watching from right now. Atlanta? Decatur? Stone Mountain? East Point? Wherever you are, I want to know. We're family here. Now let's get back to the story. My name is Evelyn Denise Carter, but for the past 18 years, everybody in Buckhead has called me Miss Evelyn the Maid. I clean houses, the big ones, the mansions off West Paces Ferry Road with circular driveways and marble floors that shine like glass, the homes with 6 bedrooms nobody sleeps in and dining rooms used twice a year. I scrub their toilets, iron their designer sheets, raise their children when they're too busy at the country club. And every Friday, they hand me an envelope with cash and a smile that doesn't quite reach their eyes. They think they know me. They think I'm simple, grateful, humble. Just another black woman in a uniform who says yes, ma'am, and keeps her head down. They're wrong. Because what nobody in Atlanta knows, not the Junior League ladies, not the Westminster mamas, not even my own daughter until last month, is that Miss Evelyn the Maid has been secretly buying up half this city, one property at a time. It started in 2007. I was 30 years old, cleaning 6 houses a week, raising my baby girl Aaliyah alone after her daddy decided fatherhood didn't fit his timeline. I made $75 a day, cash, sometimes $100 if they had guests coming. Every night, I'd drag myself home bone-tired, feet swollen, smelling like Pine Sol and someone else's expensive perfume. I'd kiss Aaliyah goodnight, then sit at my little kitchen table and count every single dollar twice. I kept a notebook hidden in my flour tin, the one nobody ever opened because I was the only person who cooked real food in that house. In that notebook, I tracked every property that came up for tax sale in Fulton County, every foreclosure, every estate sale where the grandchildren didn't want the old house. I started with $400 saved from skipping lunches for 4 months straight. I bought a shotgun house on Cascade Avenue for $11,000 at a tax auction. It needed everything. New roof, new plumbing, new wiring, new hope. I worked that house myself, cleaned rich people's homes by day, fixed my own property by night and on weekends. My hands cracked and bled from pulling nails and scraping old paint. When it was finished, I rented it to Miss Brenda from the Waffle House on Campbellton Road. She paid me $600 a month, cash. 6 months later, I had enough for the next house, then the next, then the next. I never told anyone, not my mama, not my sister, not Aaliyah until last month. I just kept cleaning those marble floors with a smile, kept saying yes ma'am when they asked me to stay late, kept putting every extra dollar into Atlanta dirt while the city slept. By the time Aaliyah was 10, I owned 27 rental properties, all in the West End, all rented to single mothers who needed a break and a fair landlord. I started an LLC called Carter Legacy Properties, paid a lawyer $500 to set it up quietly, no fuss. I never changed how I dressed, still wore my cleaning uniform, still drove my 1998 Honda Accord with the dent in the passenger door, still shopped at Dollar General on Cascade Road. Because I learned something important scrubbing those marble floors. Rich folks only see what they expect to see. They see a black woman in a maid's uniform, they assume she's struggling. They never imagine she might own the very building they're standing in. Fast forward to August 29th, 2024. Aaliyah is 18 now, senior year at Westminster Christian Academy, the fanciest private school in Atlanta, where tuition costs more than I used to make in an entire year. I put her there on partial scholarship plus every extra dollar I could scrape together. I wanted her to have opportunities I never had, I wanted her to walk in rooms I'd only cleaned. Tonight was parent orientation night. I walked in wearing my good Sunday dress, navy blue with little white flowers, bought on sale at Belk. My hair was in a neat bun. I wore the pearl necklace my mama gave me when I graduated high school. I was talking to Aaliyah's advanced PA history teacher, Mrs. Penelope Hargrove. Tall woman, blonde, always dressed in Lily Pulitzer like she was born wearing it. The kind of woman who never scrubbed a floor in her life. Mrs. Hargrove looked me up and down with that tight little smile I'd seen 1,000 times before. She said, "Aaliyah is such a bright girl. We were all so surprised she got in on scholarship. Tell me, Miss Carter, was it? What do you do for a living?" The room got quieter. Other parents glanced over. I smiled sweetly. "I'm in property management, ma'am." Oh, how nice. She actually laughed, a sharp, performative laugh designed to put me in my place. "Oh, how nice," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "You know, my maid says the same thing. You must work for one of the big property management companies. Which one?" Several parents were watching now. I could feel their eyes. Some looked embarrassed for me, others looked amused. I kept smiling. "I work for myself, actually." "Oh, how entrepreneurial." She leaned in closer, lowering her voice like she was being kind. "You know, we have a hardship fund for parents who can't afford the extra field trips and activity fees. There's no shame in asking for help." That's when I heard footsteps behind me. Aaliyah. My baby girl had been across the room talking to friends, but she'd heard everything. I could see it in her face, the flush of humiliation, the anger in her eyes. She walked up and stood next to me, shoulders squared. "Actually, my mama doesn't need your hardship fund. She owns this school." The room went completely silent. Mrs. Hargrove's smile faltered. She laughed again, but this time it sounded nervous. "What a vivid imagination your daughter has, Miss Carter." I reached into my purse, good leather, bought secondhand but well-maintained, and pulled out a manila folder. I set it on the table between us. Inside was a deed, official, notarized, recorded with Fulton County. The deed to Westminster Christian Academy, 42 acres off Northside Drive. The main building, the gym, the chapel, the football field, the parking lots, everything. I'd bought it 6 months ago when the board quietly put the campus up for sale. Enrollment was down, donations were drying up, they needed cash fast and wanted to keep it quiet. I paid cash, $48 million. $48 million, I'd built one house, one rent check, one smart investment at a time over 18 years. I looked Mrs. Penelope Hargrove directly in her eyes and said, soft and sweet, "Penelope, baby, I've been meaning to talk to you about your performance review." You could have heard a pin drop on that polished marble floor. Dr. Phillips, the headmaster, came rushing over, his face white as communion wafers. Mrs. Carter, Chairman Carter, this is highly irregular." I held up one hand. He stopped talking. "Dr. Phillips," I said gently, "from this moment forward, Westminster Christian Academy is under new ownership and management. My first official act is to terminate Mrs. Penelope Hargrove for creating a hostile and discriminatory environment towards students and parents." Her face went from pink to white to red. Tears started running down her cheeks, black mascara streaking like rivers. "You can't! I have tenure." "This is a private institution," I said calmly. "There is no tenure. You're terminated effective immediately. Security will escort you out. You'll receive 2 weeks severance pay, which is more grace than you showed my daughter or me." The other parents started clapping, slowly at first, then louder. One by one, they came up to shake my hand. "Miss Evelyn, I had no idea. We always knew Aaliyah was special. What an inspiration! I smiled at each of them, but inside I was thinking. That night, I took Aaliyah to our spot, the Waffle House on Piedmont Road. We sat in our usual booth, the one by the window with the slightly cracked vinyl seat, the one where we'd celebrated her first A, her acceptance to Westminster, every small victory. The waitress, Miss Gloria, poured coffee without asking. She'd been working this shift for 12 years. She knew our order by heart. "Heard you made some noise tonight," Gloria said with a knowing smile. Word traveled fast. "I just said some things straight," I said. Gloria laughed and walked away to put in our order. 2 waffles, extra butter, scattered and covered hash browns. Aaliyah hadn't said much since we left the school. She sat across from me, hands wrapped around her coffee mug, staring into the steam. Finally, she looked up. "Why didn't you tell me?" The question I'd been expecting. "Baby, I wanted you to earn your way, not buy your way. I wanted you to know what it feels like to work hard and still get treated like less. So when you get to the top, and you will, you'll never treat anybody that way." Tears filled Aaliyah's eyes. "Mama, they talked down to you for years. I heard them. The other parents, the teachers. I heard how they spoke to you at pickup, at events. It made me so angry." "I know, baby. And you just took it. You smiled and said, 'Yes, ma'am,' and I thought—" She stopped, wiping her eyes. "I thought you didn't know how to stand up for yourself." That hurt, but I understood. Sometimes standing up means standing down first. Sometimes power isn't about making noise, it's about making moves. But $48 million, Mama, $48 million! How did... I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app, handed it to her. Her eyes went wide. "This can't be real." "It's real. You have..." She scrolled. "Mama, you have over $300 million in assets?" $347 million last time I checked. Properties, investments, stocks, bonds, all built from cleaning houses and buying smart. Allie set the phone down like it might explode. "I don't understand. How? You make, what, maybe $40,000 a year cleaning?" "Closer to 60 with tips and bonuses, but yes. I started with $400 in 2007. Bought a house for $11,000 at a tax sale, fixed it up myself, rented it out. Took that income and bought another house. Then another. But that's only a few houses. How did you get to hundreds of properties?" Compound growth, baby. And timing. I bought during the 2008 crash when everyone was selling. I bought foreclosures nobody wanted in neighborhoods people had written off. Weston, Vine City, Mechanicsville. I bought them for pennies, and I held them. And then Atlanta grew. Those neighborhoods came back. Property values went up. I reinvested the profits, bought apartment buildings, commercial real estate. I diversified. Gloria brought our food. The smell of butter and syrup filled the booth. Aaliyah picked at her waffle. "So the cleaning, you didn't need to keep doing it." "No, but I wanted to. I needed to stay invisible, stay underestimated. If I'd suddenly quit and started acting rich, people would have noticed. They would have asked questions, maybe tried to take what was mine. But you could have had an easier life. You worked yourself to death for 18 years. "I worked myself to freedom," I corrected. "There's a difference. And besides, baby, I like the work. I liked knowing I was building something real, something nobody could take from me." Aaliyah was quiet for a long time. Then she asked the question I knew was coming. "What happens now?" I leaned forward. "Now? Now we make some changes. First thing tomorrow, I'm meeting with the school board. We're firing 3 more teachers who've been ugly to scholarship students.
I'm starting a full ride scholarship fund for every child of a domestic worker in Atlanta. Every child? Every single one. Maids, nannies, housekeepers, janitors. If you work cleaning up after rich folks, your kids get a free ride to Westminster. Full tuition, books, activities, everything. Aaliyah's eyes filled with tears again. Mama, that's beautiful. And when renaming the football field? After who? After your grandmother, Lorraine Carter. She cleaned houses for 40 years so I could go to college. She never got recognition. She's getting it now. We ate in comfortable silence for a while. The diner hummed with late-night energy. Truckers, night shift workers, insomniacs, and people like us who needed a safe place to process the world. What about Mrs. Hargrove? Aaliyah asked. I smiled. Last I heard, she's working the front desk at the Marriott Marquis downtown. Seriously? Seriously. Wears a uniform, saying yes, sir, and yes, ma'am to people who don't see her as human. Maybe she'll learn something. That's cold, Mama. That's karma, baby. We finished our food. Gloria refilled our coffee. Outside the window, Atlanta glowed. My city, my home, my empire, hidden in plain sight. Can I ask you something? Aaliyah asked. Always. When did you know? When did you know you'd made it? I thought about that. You want the real answer? Yes. Tonight. When I saw your face, when you stood next to me and defended me, even though you thought I was just a maid, that's when I knew. Not because of the money, because I raised a daughter who stands up for people, even when she thinks they can't stand up for themselves. Aaliyah reached across the table and grabbed my hand. Her grip was strong, determined. I love you, Mama. I love you too, baby. We stayed until midnight, laughing and crying and planning. By the time we left, we'd outlined scholarships, teacher hirings, curriculum changes, and a new mission statement for Westminster Christian Academy. As we walked to the car, Aaliyah said, Mama, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of us. I hugged her tight in that Waffle House parking lot, both of us crying happy tears under the streetlights.
I didn't sleep much that night. Not because I was worried. I'd planned this moment for months. But because reality was finally catching up to 18 years of secrecy. By 6 a.m., my phone was blowing up. Text messages, voicemails, emails. News outlets wanting interviews, parents wanting meetings, teachers wanting to know if their jobs were safe. I ignored most of them, made coffee, sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd counted dollar bills and planned property purchases for nearly 2 decades. My mama's voice echoed in my head. Baby, success don't come from talking loud. It comes from moving smart. She'd been right. At 7:30 a.m., I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Mrs. Carter, this is Sheila Morrison from Channel 2 News. We'd love to interview you about what happened at Westminster last night. Our viewers would be inspired by your story. No, thank you, I said politely. But Mrs. Carter, this is an incredible story. A Black woman, a domestic worker, buying one of Atlanta's most prestigious. I said, no, thank you. Have a blessed day. I hung up. Aaliyah emerged from her bedroom, still in pajamas. Mama, my phone is going crazy. Everyone from school is texting. Some are congratulating me. Some are... She hesitated. Some are saying ugly things. What kind of ugly things? She showed me her phone. Messages from other students. So, your mom bought your way in? That's not earning it. Guess we know why you got good grades. Teacher's pet takes on a whole new meaning. Must be nice having a rich mom pretending to be poor. I felt anger rising, but I breathed through it. Baby, you know the truth. You earned every grade,
every achievement. You got into Westminster before I bought it. These people are just mad because their world got shaken up. It still hurts. I know, but hurt is temporary. Character is permanent. Let them talk. You just keep being excellent. She nodded, but I could see the pain in her eyes. This was the cost. I knew there would be a cost. Change always has a price. At 9 a.m., I drove to Westminster. The campus looked the same. Beautiful brick buildings, manicured lawns, the kind of place that screamed privilege without saying a word. But it was mine now, and I was about to change everything. Dr. Phillips met me at the entrance. He looked like he hadn't slept either. Mrs. Carter, good morning. I've prepared the conference room for our meeting. The board members are arriving shortly. Good. I have a lot to discuss. Before we go in, he said, lowering his voice, I want to apologize for last night, for how Mrs. Hargrove spoke to you, for how this institution has operated. I've been headmaster for 15 years and I've turned a blind eye to discrimination that I should have stopped. I studied him. He looked genuinely remorseful. Dr. Phillips, apologies are nice, but actions matter more. Are you ready to actually change this school, or are you just trying to keep your job? He met my eyes. Honestly, both, but mostly the first one. I got into education to help young people. Somewhere along the way, I forgot that meant all young people. Then let's help them. We walked into the conference room together. The board was already assembled. 12 faces, most of them hostile. Richard Pemberton III, the board chairman, sat at the head of the table like he still owned the place. Mrs. Carter, good morning. We need to discuss last night's incident. Incident? You mean when I revealed that I purchased this school 6 months ago with your full knowledge and approval? The anonymous charitable trust was mine. Carter Legacy Foundation, my lawyers handled the paperwork. Everything was legal, binding, and final. You took my $48 million gladly. Now you'll accept my leadership. This is highly irregular, Margaret Whitmore protested. The families who built this institution built it on what? Exclusivity? Discrimination? Making sure only certain children got opportunities while others scrubbed your floors? That's not fair. Fair? Let me tell you what's not fair. For 18 years, I cleaned houses in Buckhead. I raised children that weren't mine while my own daughter stayed with neighbors. I scrubbed toilets for families who wouldn't let me use the guest bathroom. I made $75 a day, while the families I worked for spent more than that on lunch. The room was silent. And you know what? I never complained. I smiled. I said, yes, ma'am. I stayed invisible. Because I knew something you didn't. What's that, Pemberton? That invisible people see everything, and patient people win eventually. I pulled out a folder. Inside were financial documents, photographs, and detailed notes. While I cleaned your homes, I listened, I watched, I documented. I know which families are barely holding on to their wealth, which ones are drowning in debt but maintaining appearances, which ones are involved in insurance fraud, tax evasion, and worse. The color drained from several faces. I'm not saying this to blackmail anyone. I'm saying this so you understand I didn't buy this school on a whim. I bought it because I've been studying you for 18 years. I know how you think, how you operate, how you protect your own. What do you want? Pemberton asked quietly. I want you to accept that Westminster Christian Academy is under new management. Mine. You can stay on as advisory board members, or you can resign, but either way, changes are coming.
"What kind of changes?" someone asked. I clicked the button. A presentation appeared on the screen. "Tomorrow I'll give you the full plan, but here's the preview. Scholarship fund for domestic workers' children, faculty diversification, curriculum updates, community partnerships, everything this school should have been doing for decades." I looked around the room. "You have 24 hours to decide if you want to be part of the solution or part of the past." Meeting adjourned. I walked out, leaving them sitting in stunned silence. Dr. Phillips caught up with me in the hallway. "That was impressive. That was necessary. What happens if they all resign? Then we build a new board, one that actually cares about education instead of exclusivity." He smiled. "I think I'm going to enjoy working for you, Mrs. Carter." By noon, 3 board members had resigned. Margaret Whitmer sent a terse email. "I cannot in good conscience support the direction this institution is taking. Effective immediately, I resign from the board." Translation: she was mad about losing power. 2 others followed, both old money families who'd had children and grandchildren attend Westminster for generations. Good riddance. But that afternoon, I got a call that worried me. "Mrs. Carter, this is Tom Bradley from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I'm working on a story about your purchase of Westminster Christian Academy. I have some questions." My stomach tightened. "What kind of questions?" "Well, there are concerns from some parents about the source of your wealth. Some are questioning whether the purchase was legitimate. Others are asking if you have the proper credentials to run an educational institution." There it was, the pushback, the attempt to delegitimize what I built. "Mr. Bradley, every dollar I earned was legal. Every property I bought was documented. Every tax was paid. My credentials include 18 years of watching how this school operates and knowing exactly what needs to change. Some parents are threatening to pull their children. Then they should pull them. Westminster will be better off without families who value exclusivity over excellence." Can I quote you on that? "You can quote me on this. I bought Westminster Christian Academy because I believe every child deserves access to quality education, not just children whose parents can afford $50,000 tuition. If that's controversial, then we need to have a bigger conversation about what education is supposed to be." The article ran the next day. Front page. "From maid to mogul, Evelyn Carter's controversial purchase of Westminster Christian Academy." The story was mostly fair, but it included quotes from anonymous parents expressing concern about the school's future. By that afternoon, my phone was ringing off the hook again. Some calls were supportive. "You go, Mrs. Carter. This is exactly what Atlanta needs. Thank you for standing up." But others were hostile. Anonymous numbers leaving racist voicemails, threats, ugly, hateful words from people too cowardly to show their faces. Aaliyah came home from school in tears. "Mama, it was awful. 3 girls cornered me in the bathroom. They said you're ruining Westminster. They said I don't belong there. They said—" She couldn't finish. I held her while she cried. "Baby, I'm so sorry. I knew this would be hard, but I didn't know it would be this hard on you. They said their parents are pulling them out of school. They said Westminster is going to become a ghetto school now." Rage burned through me. "Give me names." "Mama, no." "Aaliyah, give me names." She rattled off 3 names, all daughters of wealthy families, all children I'd watched grow up while cleaning their houses. I made a call. Dr. Phillips answered on the first ring. "Mrs. Carter, I need you to pull 3 students into your office tomorrow morning. Madison Thornton, Claire Prescott, and Emma Kate Sullivan. I'll be there." "What happened?" I told him.
"I'll handle it," he said immediately. "No, we'll handle it together. This is the culture we're changing. It starts with holding people accountable." The next morning, I walked into Dr. Phillips' office. The three girls sat in chairs, their mothers standing behind them protectively. All three mothers had been clients of mine. I'd cleaned their houses, washed their children's clothes, organized their lives. They looked at me with barely concealed contempt. "Mrs. Carter," said Claire's mother, Victoria Prescott, "I don't know what lies your daughter told you, but my Claire would never. Your Claire told my daughter that Westminster is becoming a ghetto school because I'm letting in scholarship students. Your Claire, along with these other two, cornered Alia in a bathroom and verbally assaulted her." I'm not finished." My voice was steel. "I spent 3 years cleaning your home, Victoria. 3 years scrubbing your toilets, doing your laundry, raising Claire while you had lunch with friends. And not once did you treat me like a human being. Not once did you say thank you. Not once did you look me in the eye." Victoria's face went red. "Now your daughter is treating my daughter the same way you treated me, and I'm here to tell you that ends today." "You can't tell me how to raise my child. I can tell you that if your child continues this behavior, she won't be welcome at my school. Westminster Christian Academy is under new ownership. That means new rules. Rule number 1, we treat people with dignity. All people, regardless of their economic background." Madison's mother stepped forward. "This is outrageous. Our families have been at Westminster for generations. And yet you learned nothing about character in all those generations." I turned to Dr. Phillips. "These 3 girls will each write a 5-page essay on the history of domestic workers in America. They'll present those essays to their classes, and they'll apologize publicly to every scholarship student in this school." "You can't force," Emma Kate's mother began. "I can. And if you don't like it, you're welcome to withdraw your daughters. There are 50 families on the wait list who would love their spots." The mothers looked at each other, then at their daughters, then back at me. They were calculating, weighing their options. Westminster was prestigious. Getting their daughters into good colleges depended on that prestige. "Fine," Victoria said finally, ice in her voice. "Claire will complete the assignment." The other 2 mothers nodded reluctantly. "Good. And ladies, one more thing." I looked at each mother directly. "I don't clean houses anymore, so don't bother calling to ask me back. You can scrub your own toilets from now on." I walked out, head high. Dr. Phillips caught up with me in the hallway. "That was intense. That was necessary. If we don't address this culture head on, nothing changes." "Some families are going to leave." "I know. And some families are going to stay and learn to do better. We'll see who's who." By the end of the week, 7 families had withdrawn their children from Westminster. But 12 new families had applied specifically because of the changes I was making. The school would survive.
2 weeks after the confrontation, we held an all-school assembly to announce the Carter Legacy Scholarship Fund. The auditorium was packed. Students, teachers, remaining board members, and parents who'd taken time off work to attend. I stood backstage, more nervous than I'd been in years. Aaliyah squeezed my hand. "You got this, Mama." "I hope so, baby." Dr. Freeman, the one black board member who'd been tokenized for years and who I'd promoted to vice chair, introduced me. "Please welcome our new board chair, Mrs. Evelyn Denise Carter." I walked onto the stage to applause, some enthusiastic, some polite, some clearly reluctant. The auditorium was beautiful. Restored wood, elegant lighting, velvet seats. I'd cleaned this room dozens of times.
vacuumed these aisles between the rows, polished the brass railings. Now I owned it. "Good morning," I said into the microphone. "My name is Evelyn Carter. Some of you know me. Most of you don't. Not really." I looked out at the sea of faces, students in crisp uniforms, teachers in professional clothes, parents in everything from business suits to medical scrubs to service uniforms. I worked at Westminster Christian Academy for 18 years. Not as a teacher, not as an administrator, as a maid. The whispers started immediately. Students turned to look at each other. Parents shifted uncomfortably. "I cleaned your classrooms while you were at recess. I scrubbed your bathrooms between periods. I polished the floor as you walk on without thinking. And for 18 years, most of you never saw me. Not really. I was just part of the background, invisible." The whispers grew louder. "That's okay. I didn't need you to see me then. I just needed you to underestimate me." A few nervous laughs rippled through the crowd. While I cleaned, I listened. I watched. I learned. I learned which teachers truly cared about students and which ones were just collecting paychecks. I learned which families treated service workers with respect and which ones treated us like furniture. And I learned that this school, for all its academic excellence, had a fundamental problem. The room went quiet. Everyone was listening now. This school divided students into two categories: those who belonged and those who should be grateful to be here. Legacy students and scholarship students, rich kids and poor kids, the seen and the invisible. I could see some parents looking down, uncomfortable. And I decided that had to change. So I did something about it. I bought the school. The auditorium erupted. Gasps, shocked exclamations. Several students actually stood up. One kid yelled, "No way!" I waited for the noise to settle. 6 months ago, I purchased Westminster Christian Academy for $48 million in cash. And today, I'm announcing the first major change: the Carter Legacy Scholarship Fund. I clicked the remote. The screen behind me lit up with the fund details. This fund will provide full-ride scholarships to the children of domestic workers throughout metropolitan Atlanta. Every maid, every janitor, every nanny, every housekeeper, every person who cleans up after someone else. If that's your parent, you can attend Westminster for free. Full tuition, books, activities, field trips, technology, everything. The auditorium exploded again, this time with sustained applause. Students were cheering. Several teachers were crying. I saw parents hugging each other. When the noise finally died down, a girl in the third row stood up. She looked about 14, hands shaking as she raised them to be called on. "Yes, sweetheart?" "Mrs. Carter, my mom cleaned houses in Buckhead. She's been cleaning the same 5 houses for 8 years. Does that mean I can invite her to school events now without being embarrassed?" My heart cracked open. "Baby, what's your name?" "Jasmine. Jasmine Rodriguez." "Jasmine, come up here." She looked terrified, but walked up to the stage. I met her at the stairs. "Jasmine, you listen to me. You should never, ever be embarrassed of your mama. She works hard. She sacrifices. She provides for you with dignity and strength. That's not something to hide. That's something to celebrate." Tears ran down Jasmine's face. "Your mama is a warrior, and starting today, she's honored here. You tell her I said that, okay?" Jasmine nodded and hugged me. The auditorium erupted again. As Jasmine returned to her seat, more students stood up, one by one. A boy in the back. "My dad's a janitor at the airport." A girl near the front. "My grandma raised me. She was a maid her whole life." A junior. "My mom works for a cleaning service, 3 houses a day, 6 days a week." A sophomore. Both my parents clean office buildings at night. I hadn't realized all these students hiding their family's honest work, carrying shame that should never have been theirs. All of you, I said, my voice strong, every single one of you, you are seen now. You matter. Your families matter. And anyone in this building who makes you feel less than because of what your parents do will answer to me personally. The applause was thunderous. When it finally quieted, I continued. The second announcement is we're renaming the football field. Effective immediately, it will be called Lorraine Carter Memorial Field, in honor of my mother. A photo of my mama appeared on the screen. She was young in the picture, maybe 30, wearing her cleaning uniform, smiling that beautiful smile that could light up a room. Lorraine Carter cleaned houses for 40 years, so I could go to college. She died 5 years ago, never seeing her name on anything but a work badge. That changes today. Her name will be on that field as long as this school exists. More applause, more tears. The third announcement, we're hiring. If you know excellent teachers from diverse backgrounds, send them our way. If you know counselors, administrators, coaches who believe that every child, regardless of economic status, deserves excellence, we want them here. After the assembly, I was surrounded. Parents thanked me, some crying. Students asked questions about the scholarship. Teachers shook my hand, telling me they'd been waiting for these changes for years. A Latina woman in a housekeeping uniform approached, name tag still pinned to her chest. Mrs. Carter, I'm Rosa Mendez. I clean houses in Buckhead. I work for the Hamiltons, the Prescotts, and 3 other families. My son Miguel is in 10th grade here on partial scholarship. Does the fund include him? What's Miguel's last name? Mendez. Miguel Alejandro Mendez. I pulled out my phone, opened my notes app, and typed his name. Miguel Mendez. Full scholarship, effective immediately. Retroactive to the beginning of this school year. You'll get a refund check by next Friday. Rosa's legs buckled. I caught her. Thank you, she sobbed into my shoulder. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You don't know what this means. I do know. Rosa, I was you. I am you. We're the same. I spent 3 hours after that assembly, talking to families, answering questions, adding names to the scholarship list, hugging strangers who felt like family. By the time I left campus, my face hurt from smiling and my heart was full. This was why I'd scrubbed floors and skipped meals and counted pennies at a kitchen table for 18 years. The first week after the scholarship announcement was chaos. Applications flooded in. 57 families applied for the Carter Legacy Scholarship in the first 72 hours alone. I read every single application myself. Single mothers working 2 jobs, fathers who cleaned office buildings at night and drove Uber during the day, grandmothers raising grandchildren on fixed incomes while still working as housekeepers. Every story broke my heart and filled it simultaneously. I approved 43 scholarships that first week, full rides for 43 children whose parents cleaned up after Atlanta's wealthy. But the pushback intensified. A group of parents, led by Victoria Prescott and 2 other mothers whose homes I'd cleaned, started a petition to review the new ownership structure of Westminster. They held meetings, hired lawyers, threatened legal action. Their argument? That I had misrepresented myself during the purchase and the sale should be voided. It was nonsense. My lawyers confirmed it was completely without merit, but it was loud nonsense, and it was designed to intimidate me. They didn't know I'd spent 18 years being intimidated by people who thought they were better than me. I was immune now. I called a press conference. Every major Atlanta news outlet showed up. Cameras, reporters, microphones. I stood at a podium in front of Westminster's main building, my building, and addressed the cameras. My name is Evelyn Denise Carter. For 18 years, I worked as a domestic worker in Atlanta. I cleaned the homes of wealthy families in Buckhead. And while I cleaned, I built a real estate empire worth over $300 million. The reporters scribbled frantically. 6 months ago, I purchased Westminster Christian Academy for $48 million in cash. The sale was legal, binding, and final. Some former board members and parents are now claiming the sale should be voided. Let me be clear. That will not happen. I pulled out documents. I have every receipt, every tax return, every property deed, every bank statement. My wealth was built legally, ethically, and through hard work. Anyone who wants to challenge that is welcome to try. My lawyers are ready. A reporter raised her hand. Mrs. Carter, some parents say you're trying to change Westminster's culture and traditions. They're right. I am trying to change the culture. The culture of exclusion. The culture that says only certain children deserve quality education. The culture that treats service workers as invisible. But aren't you concerned about families leaving? No. Families who can't accept that all children, regardless of their parents' income, deserve dignity and opportunity are welcome to leave. We'll fill their spots with families who actually understand what education is supposed to be about. Another reporter. What do you say to critics who claim you don't have the proper credentials to run a school? I say I have 18 years of watching how this school operates. I know which teachers are excellent and which are coasting. I know which policies help students and which help adults maintain power. I know what needs to change because I saw it from a perspective none of those critics ever had, from the bottom up. The press conference went viral. By that evening, I was trending on social media. Half the comments were supportive, half were viciously racist. But something unexpected happened. Donations started pouring in. People across the country, domestic workers, teachers, parents who'd struggled to afford private school, sent money to the scholarship fund. $20 here, $50 there. One woman sent $500 with a note, "My mama cleaned houses her whole life. This is in her honor." Within a week, the scholarship fund had grown by an additional $2 million from small donations. The people were speaking, and they were saying, "We see you. We support you. Keep going." But the real turning point came on Friday of that first week. I was in my new office, the former headmaster's office, which I'd redecorated with art from Black artists and photographs of my mama, when Dr. Phillips knocked. "Mrs. Carter, there's someone here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's important." "Who is it?" "Patricia Blackwell." My heart stopped. Patricia Blackwell, the wife of Senator John Blackwell, one of the wealthiest, most powerful families in Georgia. I'd cleaned their house for 6 years. "Send her in." Patricia entered, and I barely recognized her. Not because she looked different. She was still perfectly coiffed, still wearing designer clothes that cost more than most people's monthly rent. But because she looked humble, uncertain. "Mrs. Carter, thank you for seeing me." "Mrs. Blackwell, please sit." She sat, hands folded in her lap. "I came to apologize." I waited. "I treated you terribly. For 6 years, you cleaned my home. You watched my children when I was busy. You organized my life. And I never once thanked you properly. I never saw you as a person, just as help." The word hung in the air. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I saw your press conference, and I realized something. My children go to Westminster. They're seniors this year. And I had been so focused on maintaining our family status, our position, that I never taught them the most important thing. What's that? That every person has value. That the woman scrubbing our floors has dreams, ambitions, intelligence, that she might be smarter than me, more capable than me, and I'd never know because I never bothered to look. I studied her. This was Patricia Blackwell, whose husband was one of the most powerful men in Georgia. She didn't have to be here. She could have just pulled her kids from Westminster and moved on. "What do you want from me?" I asked. "Nothing. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry, and that my children will stay at Westminster, and that I'm going to make a donation to your scholarship fund. $1 million. My eyes widened. "I can't undo 6 years of treating you as invisible, but I can try to make sure other children don't grow up learning that same behavior from me." She stood, placed an envelope on my desk, and turned to leave. "Mrs. Blackwell?" She stopped. "Thank you," I said, "for being willing to change." She nodded and left. I opened the envelope. Inside was a check for $1 million made out to the Carter Legacy Scholarship Fund. I sat back in my chair and laughed, then cried, then laughed again. The universe had a sense of humor. The woman whose floors I scrubbed on my hands and knees had just funded scholarships for 20 children. Sometimes redemption looks like revenge, but sometimes...
1 month after taking ownership, I held my first official school board meeting as chairman. The conference room was packed. Dr. Freeman sat to my right as vice chair. Dr. Phillips was there as headmaster. 7 board members remained after the resignations, some enthusiastic about changes, others clearly resistant but staying for optics. And we had 3 new members I'd personally recruited. Marcus Johnson, a Black entrepreneur who'd built a tech company from nothing. Diana Wong, a Chinese-American professor of education at Georgia State. And Father Miguel Torres, a Catholic priest who ran a community center in the West End. I'd intentionally built a board that reflected Atlanta's actual diversity, not just Buckhead's comfortable bubble. "Let's begin," I said, calling the meeting to order. First item, faculty hiring. Dr. Phillips has identified 12 positions we need to fill. 3 teachers who resigned, 6 new positions we're creating, and 3 retirements. Dr. Phillips distributed folders. I've compiled applications from diverse candidates, teachers from HBCUs, from urban schools, from international backgrounds, all highly qualified. "I notice none of them come from the usual pipeline," said Gerald Hamilton, one of the remaining old guard board members. "No Harvard, no Yale, no predominantly white institutions?" I finished. "That's correct. We're diversifying our faculty to reflect the diversity of our students. Excellence isn't exclusive to Ivy League schools. But our standards are higher now, not lower. We're looking for teachers who can connect with all students, not just the ones who look like them." Marcus Johnson spoke up. "I've reviewed the applications. These candidates are exceptional. One has a PhD in African American history from Howard. Another has 15 years of experience teaching in multilingual classrooms. Another developed an award-winning STEM program in an underfunded public school. These are exactly the kind of teachers we need." "I agree," Diana Wong added. "Education research shows that students perform better when they see themselves reflected in their teachers. We're not lowering standards, we're expanding them." Gerald looked uncomfortable, but nodded. "Second item," I continued, "curriculum updates. We're adding required courses in African American history, Latin American history, and Asian American history. Not electives, requirements. That's going to be controversial with some families, someone said. Good. Controversy means we're challenging assumptions. This isn't indoctrination, it's education. Our students are going to learn the full story of America, not the sanitized version. Father Torres leaned forward. If I may, Mrs. Carter, I think this is essential. I work with young people every day who are hungry for truth, for context, for understanding why the world looks the way it does. This curriculum gives them that. Thank you, Father. I clicked to the next slide. Third item, community partnerships. We're opening our facilities to neighborhood organizations on weekends. Our gymnasium, our library, our computer labs. We're a private school, but we're also part of a community. It's time we acted like it. That's a liability issue, Gerald protested. That's a humanity issue. And our lawyers have already worked out the liability details. This is happening. We moved through the agenda. Scholarship fund management, facility improvements, athletic program expansion, arts program funding. Every decision was met with some resistance from the old guard and enthusiastic support from the new members. By the end of the meeting, I'd gotten everything I wanted approved. As people filed out, Dr. Freeman stayed behind. He said that was masterful. That was exhausting. Welcome to leadership, he smiled. But seriously, Evelyn, you're changing lives here. Do you realize that? I'm trying. You're succeeding. I've been on this board for 8 years, trying to make these same changes, and I was always outvoted, tokenized, ignored. Now, with your ownership and this new board composition, we're actually doing the work. Marcus, can I ask you a question? Of course. Why did you stay? All those years of being the only Black voice in a room full of people who didn't listen, why didn't you quit? He was quiet for a moment. Because I kept thinking, what if one student needs to see me here? What if one Black kid sees me on this board and realizes they belong in these spaces too? I couldn't quit on that possibility. That's beautiful. That's exhausting, he laughed, but it was worth it. And now, with you leading, I don't have to carry that weight alone. After he left, I sat in the empty conference room and thought about weight. The weight of being first, of being only, of being the one who has to prove they belong. I'd carried that weight for 18 years. But now, with each scholarship student we admitted, with each diverse teacher we hired, with each curriculum update we implemented, I was distributing that. 6 weeks into the new semester, something unexpected happened. A white family, the Mitchells, came to my office requesting a meeting. They were old money, legacy family, exactly the type I expected to withdraw their son. But they surprised me. Mrs. Carter, Mr. Mitchell said, we wanted to thank you. I blinked. Thank me? Our son Tyler is in 10th grade. He's been at Westminster since kindergarten, and honestly, he was becoming entitled, disconnected from reality. He had no idea how most people live. Mrs. Mitchell continued. Then the scholarship students started arriving. Tyler was partnered with a boy named Miguel for a history project. Miguel's mother is a housekeeper. I knew Miguel, Rose's son, brilliant kid. At first, Tyler was resistant. He made some unfortunate comments about Miguel not belonging here. We were mortified. What changed? I asked. Tyler went to Miguel's house to work on the project. He saw where he lives, a small apartment. Miguel shares a bedroom with his 2 younger brothers. His mother works 6 days a week, leaves at 5 a.m., comes home at 8 p.m. Mrs. Mitchell's eyes filled with tears. Tyler came home different. He asked us why Miguel's family has to work so hard, why we have so much and they have so little. questions we should have been asking all along. Now, Tyler volunteers at Father Torres's community center every Saturday. He's tutoring younger kids. He's learning Spanish so he can communicate better with the families there. He's becoming the person we hoped he'd be, but didn't know how to teach him to be. "You gave our son empathy," Mrs. Mitchell said simply. "By bringing different worlds together. We can't thank you enough." After they left, I sat at my desk and cried. Because this was the point. Not revenge against Mrs. Hargrove or the board members who'd underestimated me. This. Transformation. Young people learning to see beyond their privilege. But not everyone was transforming. That same week, I got word that a group of parents was planning a protest. They called themselves Concerned Parents for Westminster's Future, which was code for angry white parents who want things to go back to how they were. They'd gotten a permit to protest outside the school on Friday morning during drop-off. I could have ignored them, stayed inside, let them shout at an empty building, but that wasn't my style. Friday morning, I walked outside at 7:30 a.m., right in the middle of morning drop-off. About 20 protesters stood on the sidewalk across from the entrance, signs reading "Protect Westminster Standards" and "Tradition Matters," and one that just said, "Take our school back." I recognized several faces, former clients, people whose houses I'd cleaned. I walked across the street to them. Victoria Prescott stepped forward. "We have a right to protest." "You absolutely do. First Amendment. I respect that." She seemed thrown off by my calmness. "You're destroying Westminster. I'm transforming it. There's a difference. You're lowering standards. I'm raising them. You just don't like that the standards now include character, empathy, and recognizing the humanity in all people." A man stepped forward. Gerald Stockton, whose house I cleaned for 4 years. My family built this school. My grandfather was on the founding board in 1952. 1952? You mean during segregation? When Black children weren't allowed to attend? Those are the traditions you're trying to protect? He reddened. "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean? Be specific. What exactly am I doing that's so terrible?" The protesters looked at each other. No one had a good answer. Because the truth was, they weren't really protesting lower standards or changed traditions. They were protesting the loss of exclusivity, the end of a system that made them feel special simply because others were kept out. Here's what I know about Westminster. I said them to the group. Westminster's test scores haven't dropped. They've increased. College acceptance rates are up. Student satisfaction surveys show improvement. The only thing that's changed is that now children from all economic backgrounds can attend. If that bothers you, the problem isn't with the school. It's with you. Victoria opened her mouth to respond, but I kept going. I spent 18 years cleaning your houses. I know things about each of you that you'd rather I didn't. I know who's kind to service workers and who's cruel. I know who tips generously at Christmas and who forgets you exist. I know who says please and thank you and who treats housekeepers like furniture. The protesters shifted uncomfortably. But I'm not here to air your dirty laundry, literally or figuratively. I'm here to tell you, this school is moving forward, with you or without you. Your choice. I turned and walked back across the street. Behind me, I heard the protests start up again, but weaker now, less certain. By the following week, the
The protests had fizzled out. Some families left, quietly withdrew their children without entourage, but more families applied. The waiting list grew to 73 students. Westminster was changing. And change, I was learning. 3 months after firing Penelope Hargrove, she called me. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. "Mrs. Carter, this is Penelope Hargrove." Her voice was different, smaller, humbler, nothing like the confident sneer from parent night. "I remember who you are, Penelope. I wanted to apologize for how I spoke to you and Aaliyah, for how I treated you. I was wrong, completely, inexcusably wrong." I said nothing. Let the silence stretch. "I've been working at the Marriott Marquis for 3 months now, front desk. I check people in, answer questions, smile while people talk to me like I'm not quite human. And I finally understand what I did to you, what I did to so many families. People snap their fingers at me, talk over me, act like I'm invisible unless they need something. And I realize this is how I treated you." "Yes," I said simply. "It is. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I understand now, and I'm sorry." I believed her. Real remorse sounds different than performance. It has weight. "Penelope, are you good at your job at the hotel?" She paused, confused. Yes, I think so. I'm trying hard. My manager says I'm learning fast." "Do you want to keep working in hospitality?" "I don't know. I can't afford to be picky right now. My savings are running out. My husband and I are barely making rent." I made a decision. Probably foolish, but grace isn't always logical. "Come to my office tomorrow, Westminster, 10 a.m. "What? Why?" "Just to be there." The next day, Penelope showed up exactly on time. She wore simple slacks and a modest blouse, no designer labels. Her hair was simpler too. She looked humbler, broken in a way that might finally let her rebuild better. "Sit," I said, gesturing to the chair across from my desk. She sat nervously. "I'm not giving you your teaching job back. I didn't expect you to. But I am offering you a different position. We need someone to run our new community outreach and family support program. The job involves working directly with scholarship families, helping them navigate Westminster's culture, connecting them with resources, and advocating for them when they face discrimination." Penelope's eyes went wide. "You want me to do that? After what I did?" "I want someone who understands what it feels like to be on both sides. Someone who's been humbled. Someone who's learned empathy the hard way. Someone who's genuinely changed." "I have changed, I swear." "Then prove it." "The salary is $52,000 a year, no summers off, hard work. You'll face criticism from people who remember who you were. You'll work with families who might remind you of where you've been. Can you handle that?" Tears ran down her face. Yes, I can. Mrs. Carter, thank you. Thank you for seeing something in me I don't even see yet." "Don't thank me. Earn it." She nodded, wiped her eyes, and left. Dr. Freeman had been listening from the doorway. He came in. That was either brilliant or insane. Maybe both. "Do you really think she's changed?" "I think hurt people hurt people, and healed people heal people. Let's find out which one she becomes." Penelope started the following Monday. I watched her carefully. So did everyone else. The first week she was nervous, tentative, afraid to make mistakes. But she worked hard. She called every scholarship family personally, introduced herself, offered help. Some families were skeptical. Word had spread about why she was fired. But she persisted. She organized a welcome orientation for new scholarship families, provided campus tours, explained the culture, connected families with resources. She created a resource guide, how to navigate financial aid forms, how to talk to teachers, how to handle discrimination if it occurred. By month 2, families were requesting to work with her specifically. One day, I watched her talking with Rosa Mendez, Miguel's mother. Rosa was frustrated because another parent had made a comment about those scholarship families in front of her. Penelope listened, validated Rosa's feelings, then said something that made me stop in my tracks. Rosa, I was that parent. I was the one who looked down on families like yours. I was wrong. So wrong. And I'm spending the rest of my career trying to make sure no one else gets treated the way I treated people. Rosa hugged her, and I realized redemption is real. Not everyone changes, but some people do. And when they do, they can become powerful advocates because they understand both sides. 3 months in, Penelope came to my office. Mrs. Carter, I have a proposal. I'm listening. I want to start a program where wealthy families at Westminster partner with scholarship families, not as charity, as genuine relationship. Wealthy families could provide mentorship, networking opportunities, resources. Scholarship families could share their perspectives, their experiences. Everyone learns. That's ambitious. I know, but I think it could bridge the gap. Help families see each other as people, not stereotypes. Write me a detailed proposal. If it's good, we'll pilot it next semester. Her face lit up. Really? Really? You're doing good work. Keep it up. After she left, I thought about my mama. Lorraine Carter used to say, "Baby, don't judge a seed by its shell. You gotta plant it and water it and see what grows." I'd planted Penelope in difficult soil, watered her with grace. 4 months after the parent night that changed everything, we held the official dedication ceremony for Lorraine Carter Memorial Field. The renovation had been extensive. New turf, new bleachers, new lighting, a state-of-the-art scoreboard. But the most important addition was the bronze plaque at the entrance. Lorraine Carter Memorial Field. She cleaned floors so her daughter could break ceilings. 1952 to 2019. The ceremony was scheduled for Saturday afternoon. I expected maybe 100 people. Over 500 showed up. Current students and families, alumni, teachers, community members, and dozens of domestic workers, many still in their uniforms, coming straight from work. They came because they saw themselves in my mama's story, in my story. Aaliyah stood next to me as we waited for the ceremony to begin. She squeezed my hand. "Grandma would be so proud, Mama." "I hope so, baby." Dr. Freeman opened the ceremony. "We're here today to honor a woman most of us never met. Lorraine Carter worked as a domestic worker for 40 years in Atlanta. She cleaned houses, she raised other people's children, she worked jobs that society deemed unskilled. Though anyone who's ever cleaned a house knows how skilled that work actually is." Laughter and applause. Lorraine Carter died 5 years ago, never knowing that her daughter Evelyn would go on to build a business empire and purchase one of Atlanta's most prestigious schools. But she would not be surprised because she knew what the world didn't, that Evelyn was brilliant, capable, and unstoppable. More applause. Dr. Phillips spoke next, then several scholarship students. Then it was my turn. I walked to the podium and looked out at the crowd. So many faces, so much hope. My mama, Lorraine Carter, worked as a maid for 40 years in Atlanta. She cleaned houses and neighborhoods she could never afford to live in. She served families who never learned her last name. And she did it with dignity, with grace, and with the hope that her children would have better. I paused, emotions rising. Mama died believing she'd spent her life invisible, that her work didn't matter, that she'd left no legacy. I looked at the crowd of domestic workers, many crying now. But she was wrong. She wasn't invisible. She was a foundation. Everything I built on her shoulders. Every property I bought, every investment I made, every door I opened, it was all because she showed me how to work hard, save smart, and never accept society's limitations. I unveiled the plaque. The crowd erupted. This field isn't just named after my mama. It's named after every domestic worker who's ever scrubbed someone else's floor, every nanny who's raised someone else's children, every housekeeper who's made someone else's life comfortable while barely affording their own. People were standing now, applauding. You are not invisible. You are not unskilled. You are the backbone of this city. And starting today, your children have a place here, not as charity cases, as full members of this community. The applause was deafening. After the ceremony, the crowd moved to the field for refreshments and celebration. A little girl approached me, maybe 9 years old, wearing a Westminster uniform 2 sizes too big. "Mrs. Carter?" I knelt down to her level. "Yes, sweetheart? My name is Destiny. My mom cleans houses. She says I'm here because of you. Your mama works hard for you. That's why you're here. Mrs. Carter, when I grow up, I want to be like you." I put my hands on her shoulders. "Destiny, listen to me. Don't be like me. Be better than me. Be so excellent they can't ignore you. Be so kind they can't break you. Be so strong they can't stop you. Can you do that?" She nodded seriously. "Yes, ma'am, I promise." "Then you're already on your way." She ran back to her mother, who was crying. Her mother mouthed, "Thank you," across the field. I mouthed back, "Thank you for raising warriors." As the celebration continued, I found myself standing alone for a moment, looking at the field. Lorraine Carter Memorial Field. Mama's name in bronze letters that would last longer than any of us. I felt a presence beside me, turned to see an elderly Black woman, maybe 75, wearing a housekeeping uniform. "Mrs. Carter? I'm Dorothy Washington. I've been a maid in Atlanta for 53 years. Miss Dorothy, it's an honor. I just wanted to tell you something. When I was young, in the 60s, I used to dream that one day someone like us would own something like this, that we'd stop being invisible. I thought I'd die before I saw it." She took my hand. "But here you are, here we are, standing on a field named after one of us. And I needed you to know what this means. It means we mattered. All along, we mattered." I hugged her while we both cried. By the end of the first year, the Carter Legacy Scholarship Fund supported 83 students at Westminster. 83 children whose parents cleaned houses, scrubbed floors, and worked jobs that society dismissed as unskilled. But I wasn't satisfied. Westminster was just one school. There were dozens of private schools in Atlanta, hundreds across Georgia, thousands across the South. I called a meeting with my leadership team, Dr. Freeman, Dr. Phillips, Penelope, and 3 scholarship parents I'd invited to join our planning committee. I want to expand, I announced. Expand how? Dr. Freeman asked. I want to create Carter Legacy Academies, charter schools across Atlanta specifically designed for children of service workers. Free tuition, excellent education, pathway to college. Dr. Phillips leaned forward. That would require significant capital. I have significant capital, $347 million in assets. I can liquidate enough to start 5 schools. 5 schools, someone gasped, to start. West End, Mechanicsville, East Point, College Park, and Decatur. We target neighborhoods where domestic workers actually live. We bring the education to them instead of making them transport their kids across the city. Rosa Mendez, Miguel's mother, spoke up. Mrs. Carter, that would change everything. Right now, my neighbor's children go to underfunded public schools. They don't have the options Miguel has. If you opened a school in our neighborhood, exactly. That's the point. Every child deserves excellent education, not just children whose parents can afford Westminster. Penelope was taking notes frantically. We'd need to navigate charter school regulations, secure facilities, hire staff. Then let's do it. Dr. Phillips, you lead the educational planning. Penelope, you handle community outreach. Dr. Freeman, you work with my lawyers on the legal structure. Rosa, Diana, Marcus, I gestured to the 3 parents on the committee. You make sure we're actually meeting community needs, not just imposing what we think communities need. Over the next 6 months, we worked. I bought 5 buildings, former churches, closed schools, empty commercial spaces. I renovated them into beautiful, functional learning environments. I hired exceptional teachers, many from historically Black colleges, many with experience in urban education. I developed a curriculum that was culturally responsive, academically rigorous, and focused on critical thinking. And I named each school after a domestic worker from Atlanta's history. Women whose names had been forgotten, whose labor had built the city, but who'd never been honored. Lorraine Carter Academy in West End, Annie Mae Hunt Academy in Mechanicsville, Clara Young Academy in East Point, Rosetta Williams Academy in College Park, Pearl Jefferson Academy in Decatur. The grand opening was in August, 1 year after the parent night that started everything. Over 2,000 people attended. Families enrolled in the new schools, community members celebrating, media covering the story. The mayor of Atlanta gave a speech. What Evelyn Carter is doing represents the best of Atlanta, building bridges, creating opportunities, recognizing that excellence isn't limited by economics. I stood at the podium at Lorraine Carter Academy, the flagship school, and looked at the crowd. 1 year ago, a teacher looked at me and my daughter and assumed we were less than, that we didn't belong, that we should be grateful for whatever scraps we received. The crowd murmured. That teacher was wrong, but she wasn't unique. She represented a system that's been in place for generations, a system that sorts children into worthy and unworthy based on their parents' income. I paused. These 5 schools are our answer to that system. These schools say every child is worthy, every child is brilliant, every child deserves teachers who believe in them, curriculum that respects them, and environments where they can thrive. Applause erupted. This isn't charity. This isn't rescue. This is recognition. Recognition that the children of domestic workers, of service workers, of people who labor with their hands, these children are Atlanta's future, and we're investing in that future starting today. The schools opened with 847 students total. Within 2 years, we had waiting lists at every location. Within 5 years, I'd opened 10 more schools across Georgia. Within 8 years, the Carter Legacy Academy network served over 12,000 students across the South, and the model worked. Our students outperformed state averages in reading and math. Our college acceptance rate was 94%. Our students went on to become doctors, lawyers, teachers, engineers, entrepreneurs. But more than statistics, our students learned something else. They learned they mattered, that their parents' jobs didn't define their potential, that hard work and intelligence could come in cleaning uniforms, that they could be excellent. And 10 years after that parent night, I stood in front of a very different audience, the United States Senate Committee on Education. They'd invited me to testify about education access and economic equity. I wore a navy blue suit, still modest, still professional, but powerful. Senator Patricia Blackwell, yes, the same Patricia whose house I'd cleaned for 6 years, was on the committee. She'd changed too, become an advocate for workers' rights, sponsored legislation to protect domestic workers. She smiled at me as I took my seat. "Mrs. Carter, thank you for joining us today," the committee chairman said. "Can you tell us about the Carter Legacy Academy Network?" "Of course. We now operate 22 schools across 5 southern states, serving over 16,000 students. All children of service workers attend tuition-free. Our model proves that when you invest in children, regardless of economic background, excellence emerges." Some critics say your model isn't scalable. Our model is already scaled. 16,000 students, 94% college acceptance rate. Students from our schools have gone on to Harvard, MIT, Stanford. They're becoming the doctors, lawyers, and leaders of tomorrow. The model works because it's built on a simple premise. All children are capable of excellence when given genuine opportunity. A senator from Alabama leaned forward. "But isn't this just another example of private charity filling gaps that public education should fill?" "Yes, and that's the problem. We shouldn't need philanthropists to provide quality education. It should be a guarantee. But until we fix public education funding, until we pay teachers what they're worth, until we stop sorting children based on zip codes, yes, private initiatives like mine will be necessary." What would you recommend to this committee? Fully fund public schools. Pay teachers like professionals. Stop property tax-based school funding that perpetuates inequality. Provide universal pre-K. Make community college free. Invest in children the way we invest in highways and defense. I leaned forward. And recognize domestic workers as skilled professionals. Give them benefits, protections, fair wages. Because here's what I learned building a $300 million empire while working as a maid. The women and men who clean your houses, watch your children, and maintain your lives are often brilliant. They're strategic. They're capable of extraordinary things. They're just not given opportunities. Senator Blackwell spoke up. "Mrs. Carter, you and I have history. I want to publicly acknowledge that I employed you for 6 years, and I treated you poorly. I never saw your humanity. I'm sorry." The room went silent. "And I want to say," Patricia continued, "that your testimony today, your work over the past decade, it's changed how I see everything. Which is why I'm introducing the Domestic Workers Bill of Rights next session. It guarantees benefits, fair wages, and protections. Will you help me fight for it?" I smiled. "Senator Blackwell, it would be my honor." The hearing ended with applause. Unusual in Senate hearings, but it happened. Afterwards, Aaliyah met me in the hallway. She was 28 now, a civil rights attorney, married to Jordan, pregnant with my first grandchild. "Mama, you were incredible." I was honest. "That's why you were incredible." We walked out of the Capitol building together. Outside, the sun was setting over Washington, D.C., painting the sky orange and gold. "Mama, do you ever think about that night, parent night, 10 years ago?" "Every day." "Do you regret anything?" "Not one thing. Not the years of cleaning floors, not the secrecy, not the sacrifice. It all led here." "What's next?" Grandmotherhood. I'm retiring from active management of the schools. Dr. Freeman is taking over as CEO. I'm going to spoil your baby and maybe write a book." "A book?" "From invisible to unstoppable. A Maid's Guide to Building an Empire. What do you think? Aaliyah laughed. I think it'll be a bestseller. We reached my car, still my 1998 Honda Accord. I kept it all these years. It reminded me where I started. Mama, when are you going to buy a new car? Why? This one still runs? You have $300 million. And I built it by not spending money I didn't need to spend. This car works. It's paid for. It gets me where I need to go. Aaliyah shook her head, smiling. You're impossible. I'm consistent. We hugged in that Capitol parking lot, and I thought about my mama. Lorraine Carter, who died believing she was invisible, never knowing her daughter would testify before the Senate. But she knew something more important, that hard work, smart thinking, and refusing to accept limitations could change everything.
15 years after that parent night, I returned to Westminster Christian Academy for a special event. They were naming the new library after me, the Evelyn Denise Carter Center for Learning. I'd retired from daily operations years ago. Dr. Freeman ran the Carter Legacy Academy Network, which now served 38,000 students across 9 states. Westminster itself had transformed completely. 60% of students were now on scholarship. The faculty was diverse. The curriculum was inclusive. The culture was unrecognizable from what it had been. But I'd been asked to speak to the senior class, their last assembly before graduation. I walked into the auditorium, the same auditorium where I'd announced the scholarship fund 15 years ago, and saw 400 18-year-olds in Westminster uniforms. Half of them were scholarship students. All of them had grown up in a Westminster that valued character over pedigree. I took the stage. Good morning. My name is Evelyn Denise Carter, and 15 years ago, I was your maid. They laughed. They'd heard the story. It was Westminster legend now. I'm here to tell you something important as you graduate and head into the world, something I learned scrubbing floors for 18 years. The auditorium was silent. I'm here to tell you something important as you graduate and head into the world. Something I learned scrubbing floors for 18 years. The auditorium was silent. The world will try to sort you, rich kids and poor kids, worthy and unworthy, those who belong and those who should be grateful. Don't accept that sorting. I walked to the edge of the stage. Some of you come from old money. Some of you come from no money. Some of your parents are doctors and lawyers. Some of your parents clean houses and work night shifts. None of that defines your worth. None of that limits your potential. A student in the 3rd row raised her hand. I nodded. Mrs. Carter, I'm Destiny Jackson. My mom is Rosa Mendez. She cleans houses. You spoke to me when I was 9 at the football field dedication. I remembered. Destiny, I remember you. You told me to be better than you. I just wanted you to know. I'm going to Harvard in the fall, full scholarship, pre-med. I'm going to be a doctor. The auditorium erupted in applause. I felt tears coming. Destiny, your mama must be so proud. She is, and she says it's because of you. It's because of her. She worked hard, raised you right, and never let society tell you what you could become. Another hand went up, a white student near the back. Mrs. Carter, I'm Tyler Mitchell. You probably don't remember me, but my parents came to your office years ago to thank you. I was the entitled kid who learned empathy from a scholarship student named Miguel. I remember. I'm going to Columbia to study social work. I want to work with underserved communities. I want to build programs like yours. Is that okay? Is it okay for someone from my background to do that work? The question was genuine, vulnerable. Tyler, here's what matters: your intention and your humility. If you go into that work believing you're rescuing people, you will fail. If you go into it believing you're learning from people, partnering with them, using your privilege to open doors, you will succeed. The world needs people like you. Just make sure you're doing it right. He nodded seriously. More hands went up, more stories, more questions. I spent an hour with those seniors, answering, listening, laughing, crying. At the end, I said, "You're walking into a world that's still unequal, still unjust, still sorting people into worthy and unworthy. But you've spent your time at Westminster learning something different. You've learned that excellence comes in all colors, all economic backgrounds, all packages." I paused. Don't forget that. Don't let the world convince you that the people who clean your office are less than you. Don't let anyone tell you that struggle means inability. Don't ever make someone invisible. The seniors stood and applauded. After the assembly, I walked the halls one more time, past classrooms where scholarship students learned alongside legacy students, past bulletin boards celebrating achievements from all backgrounds, past the Lorraine Carter Memorial Field where young people played without regard to their parents' income. I ended at the new library, the Evelyn Denise Carter Center for Learning. Above the entrance was a quote they'd asked me to choose. "Excellence isn't about where you start. It's about refusing to accept limitations on where you finish." Evelyn Denise Carter. Inside, students studied, laughed, learned. Some would become doctors, lawyers, engineers. Some would become teachers, social workers, community organizers. Some would become domestic workers like their parents, but would do so knowing their work had dignity and value. All of them would remember they were never invisible. I left Westminster that day knowing my work was done. Not because inequality was solved. It wasn't. Not because every child had access to excellent education. They didn't. But because I'd proven it was possible. One maid, 18 years of patience, and a refusal to stay invisible had changed thousands of lives. And those lives would change thousands more. That was legacy. Not buildings with my name, not money in the bank, not headlines or honors. Legacy was Destiny going to Harvard, Tyler learning empathy, Miguel becoming an engineer, Rosa's younger children attending Carter Legacy Academy. Legacy was every scholarship student who walked through Westminster's doors and believed they belonged. Legacy was every domestic worker who saw my story and thought, maybe I'm not invisible either. I drove home that evening in my 1998 Honda Accord through Atlanta traffic, past the neighborhoods where I'd built my empire one house at a time, and I thought about my mama, Lorraine Carter, who'd scrubbed floors for 40 years so I could go to college, who believed she left no legacy, who died thinking her life didn't matter. We did it, Mama. We showed 'em. The city lights blurred through my tears, but they were good tears. Legacy tears. If you enjoyed this story, drop a comment below. Tell me where you're watching from. Atlanta, Decatur, Stone Mountain, wherever you call home. Miss Lovie reads every single comment and sends love straight to your tired hands and your fighting heart. First time here? Hit that subscribe button and tap the bell. We're family now. Because you were never just the maid. You were never just the help. You were never just invisible. You were always the owner,